Hey crafty friends, today's project is inspired by the beautiful floral design of Rapunzel's braided hair. And I have to say, this card just screams spring to me. With all of the soft yellows, lavenders, and pink hues, it feels bright, cheerful, and full of life. We're going to be combining texture, dimension, and a mix of materials to create something really unique. I love how this one turned out, so let's jump right in. To get started, I'm using this paper pad from Simple Stories called Simple Vintage Lavender Fields. This pad has the most beautiful mix of honey yellows and soft lavender tones, along with delicate floral designs and honeycomb designs that are perfect for this project. I pulled out this yellow floral paper along with a double-sided sheet, 12 by 12 that I had from the same collection. And this one has more of a watercolor lavender wash on one side and a tone-on-tone lavender pattern on the other. These are going to be the main layers for my background. And for the hair, I chose this warm golden yellow solid paper. For added texture, I'm using this Lisa Horton embossing folder called Layered Leaves. I love this for this project because the pattern itself almost mimics the look of braided strands of hair, which ties in beautifully with the theme. I also created a simple template here using 3 different sized ovals that I just hand drew onto some paper, some scrap paper I had, stack them from largest to smallest. This will help shape the quote head of our design. I'm going to place the template onto my paper, trace around it, and cut it out. Now for a little added detail, I'm applying Distress Oxides in mustard seed and antique linen directly onto the embossing folder. So this technique I love to do because it adds color directly into the debossed areas, giving you both texture and subtle shading at the same time, which I love. And then I clean the folder with just soap and water so it's ready for the next use. I also like to use a heat tool to heat set the ink and make sure everything is nice and dry before moving on to the next steps. For the base, I'm using a 6x8 piece of cardstock. I'm going to be trimming this down so that it's slightly larger than an A2 size card, a 4¼ by 5½. I did want the card to be a little larger this time since the outline of the head and the braids is going to take up a little bit more space. I also trimmed down my background paper so they layer nicely one on top of the other. To add even more interest, I'm using some rub-ons from the scrapbook.com Wild Bloom collection, and I just haphazardly put it around the perimeter of my lavender paper just to have the floral subtly peek through and enhance the background without overpowering it. Then I adhere my layers down, one on top of the other with some double-sided adhesive and attach the headpiece to the front using liquid adhesive. I chose liquid adhesive for the headpiece just because since there's a lot of grooves from the embossing, I wanted to be sure that every single part of the surface is adhered down to my base layer. Now we move on to the florals, which is so much fun. This is where the card really starts to come to life. I found these small floral bundles from Dollar Tree and Michael's. Michael's was having a spring sale, so I got the bundles for pretty inexpensive. And I'm using a mix of wildflowers, daisies, baby's breath, larkspurs, and sunflowers, just all reminiscent of the flowers used in Rapunzel's hair. So each of these flowers are removable from the stem itself. So I trim down the backs and add a bit of hot glue to keep everything secure and flat. You can see how I'm doing that here. So once you remove it from the stem, you just trim the back part so that it's as flat as possible. It is going to be loose, so that's where the hot glue comes into place so that it keeps your floral piece attached to the center together, but it remains flat to make it easy to glue down. And I repeat this for all of the flowers so that they're ready for use. Now for the braid. So this is a really fun detail and kind of an afterthought. I wasn't going to put this in, but I felt like the card needed an even more 3D effect. So I'm using yarn from Loops and Threads in the colorway Butter, which I love that colorway name, to mimic that golden hair tone. So I take about 9 strands, tie a knot at one end, tape it down to my surface, and braid it all the way down. Just a normal braid. You can get creative if you're really good at braiding. I just know how to braid the one and only way I was taught growing up. So that's the braid I'm using. But once the braid is complete, I gently snake it across the card so it flows naturally from one side to the other. So it looks like beautifully braided hair. I secure each end with hot glue, trim off the excess, and then adhere the braid along the design, following the curve as I go. Next, I arrange all of my flowers around the braid and secure them with hot glue. Get creative with the design. I pulled a lot of still photos from the movie just so I could get a better look of how the hair looked and the flower arrangement and the braids and how it all flowed together. So use that as your source of inspiration or just create your own design. There's no wrong way to do this. It's just however you want the back of your hair to look is how it's going to be. I also mix in some paper flowers, so use whatever you have on hand. It doesn't have to be expensive, which is the best part. So utilize Dollar Tree, utilize sales at Michael's, or make your own paper flowers with maybe some tissue paper that you have on hand. For a little extra sparkle, I'm adding these Aurora Borealis rhinestones from Spellbinders to the corners of the card. And for the sentiment, I'm using the Bright Spring Wishes sentiment from the Pretty Pink Posh set, along with the coordinating banner die. I stamped the sentiment in VersaFine Nocturne ink. So after die cutting that, I lightly ink the edges with Distress Oxide and Shaded Lilac for a soft finish, and add foam tape to the back side and adhere that to the bottom right of the card. I did end up going back in and adding another braid near the top, just a small short braid, tucking it in, and added a few extra flowers and baby's breath to give it even more fullness and dimension. Here is the finished card. I love how this one turned out. I hope you did too. It's bright, textured, and full of detail with such a soft spring-inspired feel. This would be perfect for spring birthdays or just to brighten someone's day. And honestly, after watching Rapunzel's Hair Entangled, I have been mesmerized by her braids and the flower arrangement on her hair. It was just so beautiful, and I wanted to recreate that in card form, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I hope you all enjoyed today's project. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps support my channel. And until next time, I will see you back here in my crafty corner soon. Bye, friends.